Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 9 playthrough of the Chicago Blackhawks. We are at the 2025 All-Star break, and the defending champion Blackhawks have had a difficult season so far. You can see we are 13th in the standings in the Western Conference. Although with 49 points, we are only 3 points out of a playoff spot at this point, so still plenty to play for the Blackhawks over the last 32 games of the season. Honestly, our goaltending and defense have both been pretty respectable. The issue has been our offense. We've definitely struggled to put the puck in the back of the net. Getting better injury-wise, still missing right-wing center Colin White, who was only with us for one game after we picked him up off waivers. Colton Dock, and most importantly, Bo Horvat. We've recently got back several frontline players, most recently including Jarrett Anderson-Dolan, who missed a few games. Kane has missed games this season. Entwistle has been on the injured list. Larkin has been on the injured list. So at one point we were really hurting as far as our frontline players. We are slowly getting them back, which hopefully will help in the quest to improve our record and ultimately at least get into the Stanley Cup playoffs as we try to defend our title. The situation with the Blackhawks as far as our job security has definitely taken a big hit this year. We were off the charts at the start of the season and even at the beginning of the season after winning the championship and then making some interesting signings and trades during the offseason. Team harmony does have a few issues at this point. Danny O'Regan, Jacob Skarek, and Dylan Holloway, who are all players that we picked up along the waiver wire this year, are all unpopular or outspoken. And we do have a clique that includes several key players, most notably Larkin and Kane, who are both first-line players for us. It seems like with the conflict that Jarrett Anderson-Dolan has and the fact that he's part of the clique, that he might have been someone to move on from, but honestly our front line is so weak that even though he might not be the best in the locker room, he is one of our better defensive forwards, and don't think that we can move on from him just yet with the types of injuries that we've suffered. So definitely has been a disappointing season. The one thing that I will say in our defense, and you can see it here, is that we had a extremely long road trip where we were on the road the entire month of November into the beginning of December, and at this point we have played 30 games away and only 20 games at home. So of our last 32 games of the season, 21 of them are going to be at home. So the hope is that that will enable us to make up some ground down the stretch here as we try to get the Blackhawks back into the playoffs. And when we get a review for January, ownership is satisfied, fans are satisfied, but that's a downturn from where they used to be. They used to be thrilled with what we were doing. The clique is growing larger too. Colin White has joined it also. As I talked about in the last episode, as a third-year manager at this point, they talk about your player management skill to dissolve the clique, which would be nice, but given that it's just the third year of the sim, only been able to boost my player management from 7 to 10 at this point. So I am average at best in terms of dealing with this large clique. I have boosted our team morale, spending as high as possible. Hopefully that will help somewhat, but it certainly is growing bigger at this point. Some issues with these guys ganging up on and bullying everyone else on the team, but Not really sure exactly how we're supposed to react to that at this point. I think we're kind of doing what we can. If we get to a point where we get some more of our frontline players back, notably Doc and then Horvat, White will not be back, and we had picked him up off waivers, and he was in the last year of his contract and suffered that serious concussion in his first game with us, so he won't be back at all. But when we get Doc back, and then maybe Horvat may give us an opportunity as we get closer to the trade deadline, which is just a little over a month away, to potentially move on from some of those players who have more problematic personalities. That said, I still don't love some of the back-end forwards that we have on the team right now. So, again, trading away someone like Anderson Dolan would be a pretty bold move, even though he's part of the clique, just because he's out there for us every day as our, right now, probably second-line center, third-line center when we do have Bo Horvat back. But after winning our first game of the month, just had an overtime loss on the road at Arizona, which not the preferred outcome since they're one of the many teams that we're chasing. Colton Dock is just about ready to return, but right winger Victor Arvidsson, who with 19 goals is one of the top goal scorers that we have, going to be out for a bit with a hamstring cramp. Assuming that that's a day-to-day kind of injury. Yeah, he's actually even game available. We'll definitely rest him in the back-to-back games that we have today, but hopefully that doesn't become a major issue. And we had another overtime loss in that game at Colorado. So the positive thing is we are scraping points out. The negative thing is that the Coyotes and the Avalanche are two of the teams that we're chasing, and they both got 2 points in our most recent performance, while we only got one. You can see we've got a game at Minnesota coming up. And then after that, I think that is about when we start having a lot more home games. After that game at Minnesota, you look at the rest of the month and only 2 road games, and we're going to have 6 at home. So hopefully that will be the opportunity for this team to start making up some ground in the standings, because time is getting shortish. And Colton Dock is back, and I think we are going to move on from Jarrett Anderson Dolan. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I want to try to do something to weaken that clique, and he seems to be right in the middle of it. And we can pick up 24-year-old defenseman Adam Wilsby from the Predators. He's only signed for 2 years, so it's not a long-term commitment. Certainly not a great player, but he can play both left and right defense. And right now we have the youngster Nolan Allen up on the NHL roster, and it's not working out incredibly well. He's just not ready at this point. So that would allow us to move Allen back to the AHL. It's, as we've talked about in previous episodes, Hronek, we're going to need to make the playoffs, and we're probably going to need to win at least one, if not 2 series in the playoffs before we would have him back. So definitely feel like this trade is maybe going to get rid of a problem in the locker room, or at least lessen it a bit, and also give us a better 6th or 7th defenseman who will be getting some playing time over the next couple of months as we try to get this team in the playoffs. So we're going to go ahead and complete that deal. And then we are going to send Allen down to Rockford, and we'll see how things go. Check in on the team harmony. No conflicts, obviously, with Anderson Dolan gone, and the click is a little bit smaller for whatever that's worth. And we had a rough night yesterday, lost 8-2 at home. Patrick Kane, day to day with shoulder soreness. At least it's not a more serious injury. But that game was notable because we've talked a lot in previous episodes about how Jakub Skarek had kind of been our secret weapon, and he was absolutely torched. 8 goals in 53 minutes on the ice before we had to yank him off, and you can see that was finally the first loss of the season, first regulation loss of the season for our backup goaltender. And we did bounce back with a win against Vegas despite Kane not being in the lineup. The standings are getting incredibly tight here in the Western Conference. You can see 59 points is good for the final wild card spot. We are now at that level, although the 3 teams that we are tied with all have a game in hand against us. So we are still clearly an outsider looking in at this point for the playoffs, but we're making up some ground, and we've got a lot of home games over the last couple of months of the season, so hopefully we can get back into the tournament. Big game today at home against Minnesota. They are, I believe, the worst team in the West, or the second worst team in the Western Conference, so definitely big opportunity for us to hopefully get right against them and get a big W as we continue to try to push back into the playoff picture. And it's a 2-1 loss. That's just brutal. I mean, as I said, we've been getting pretty good goaltending. The offense just isn't scoring. Not having Patrick Kane around doesn't help. Who scored our lone goal? Victor Arvidsson, the 20th of the season, so he continues to do his job as a sniper for us, but the rest of the offense not doing much, and that is a loss that really hurts. The 59 points is now out of the playoffs, and you can see that there are still 4 teams tied at that level. Still have 23 games left. The whole season is in front of us. Most of those games are at home, as we've talked about. But home against Arizona, a team that's 2 points ahead of us in the standings with a game in hand against us, is going to be a critical win for us to get tomorrow. So getting ready for that game, home against Arizona. And then we'll be at Winnipeg tomorrow, which is another team that is way ahead of us in the playoff race, not one that we're going to catch. Certainly was good to get the W against Arizona. Would be really big if we can go on the road now, get a win against Winnipeg. Trade deadline getting close, about a week away at this point. Actually, might be less than a week away at this point. I don't know that we're going to do a ton as we get closer to the trade deadline, but certainly probably need to do something resembling anything. Got Kane back for this road game. Gonna hopefully let Skarek bounce back from that poor performance he had last time out. Would be really good to string a second win together here towards the end of February, and we do not get that 7-4 loss on the road. So I guess the only positive thing is that we did score 10 goals over those last 2 games. The negative is that only one of them was a victory, but at least we are putting the puck in the net. And we are going to make a trade. We're going to send the rights to Mike Hardman and Michael Teplee, who were 2 restricted players that did not end up re-signing with us. Hardman is playing over in I guess that's the Swiss League, I believe. And Teplee is playing in the Swiss League. I'm not sure if that's where Hardman actually is, but Yes, it is. They're both in the Swiss League. And we can pick up Curtis Lazar, who's in the final year of his contract from the Canucks. Just kind of a grinding defensive forward. Seems like personality-wise, he'll fit in pretty well, can adapt to new surroundings. Kind of similar to Jared Anderson Dolan, who we had traded away. But bringing Lazar on board will allow us to, shore up the fourth line a little bit as we get closer to the trade deadline. So we're going to go ahead. Our scout thinks they'll probably accept it, so we're going to go ahead and offer that trade, and they are willing to finalize it. So we have one deal done. Didn't really have to give up too much, and that will enable us to probably send Colton Dock down to the minors, get a little more seasoning for him at the AHL. And as I said, not a long-term commitment to Lazar. Really didn't give up anyone who was in our long-term future for him, and gives us a bit of an upgrade again on the kind of third or fourth line compared to what we had. And the season-long offensive struggles ended yesterday in a 10-0 win at home against the Flyers. You can see a lot of big games. Victor Arvidsson, 1 goal, 4 assists. Hat trick from Dylan Larkin, and 5 assists from Taylor Radish. So obviously a nice way to finish off the month of February. Take a look at the development. Hayes and Holloway and Skarek among guys who are on the NHL team getting better. Ross Colton, who is now only 28, but he seems to be moving a little bit in the wrong direction, but that's going to happen as you get a little bit older. So we are through the month of February. Taking a look at the standings, 27, 26, and 9, 63 points, which is just on the outside of the playoffs. You can see we are a point behind the Coyotes for that final spot, and they do have a game in hand on us. And there's a bunch of teams within a handful of points of us. So going to be quite a battle for that last playoff spot or two. Would hope that maybe Vegas slips up a little bit, and that first wild card also becomes one that's in play for a team like ours. But the goal as we begin the month of March is pretty easy. Start stringing some wins together. And as you can see from looking at the schedule, this is the part of the schedule where that whole month on the road last November is going to be equalized for us. A lot of games at home. That Vegas game at home on the 11th certainly stands out. Arizona on the 15th, a couple of the teams that we are chasing. So it definitely looks like, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, Seattle, Winnipeg, Vancouver got a lot of games at home against Western Conference rivals. So the season is still well in front of us, even though it's 75% over at this point. And looking at our team as we get really close to the trade deadline, the fact that we've got Horvat out for 1 to 2 months and Hronek out for 2 to 3 months does put us in a situation where we've got a lot of money available, and we're thinking about bringing on Christian Dvorak from the Canadiens. We are one of the few teams that he will allow a trade to. It's really just a matter of how much they're looking for. He's in the final year of his contract, making close to $6 million, although $4.5 million for the cap hit. If we can get him for not too much, because the Canadiens know they're not going to re-sign him, maybe something to think about. You can see the top players available are all big-time defensemen. Would love to have any of them on the team, but don't think that is our biggest need right now. But we also don't necessarily want to make a long-term commitment to an older player. We could certainly make an offer for Chris Kreider, but he's 33 years old, making $6.5 million a year for another 3 years. So I do like the fact that Dvorak is more economical. We could even go for our old buddy Athanasiou, who we traded away in the early stages of our first season. But I think Dvorak is kind of a more well-rounded player. So if the price for him is not too high, maybe we can work something out. They're in a total rebuild. We're not going to trade you Quinn Hughes or Dylan Larkin, but we'll see if we can come up with something. And we've got a trade together to bring Dvorak on, centered around a 5th-round draft pick and then rights to a bunch of prospects. 3 of them are in Europe. One of them is Aiden Thompson, who was a 3rd-round pick by the Blackhawks in 2022. Not a bad prospect, but I don't think he's going to be anything than a end-of-the-roster type of player for us at the NHL level. So we are going to go ahead and offer this trade, which we think they're probably going to accept. They'll finalize it, so we'll go ahead and finalize that. And Christian Dvorak is on our roster. That will enable us. We would love to, at this point, get rid of some of the kind of back-end depth that we had picked up off the waiver wire when we were just crushed with injuries about a month and a half, 2 months ago, like Paul Cotter or Tyler Madden. But those guys, since we picked them up on waivers, we can't get rid of. So we're actually going to send down the youngster Gavin Hayes to the AHL. He's been respectable for us this year, but certainly Christian Dvorak is a more accomplished, more balanced player, and hopefully someone who can really help us ensure that we get this team into the playoffs. And as March begins, ownership is satisfied, the fans are satisfied. They say that replacing us is out of the question, so that is good. I think with those 2 trades that we've made, hopefully enough to get us into the playoffs. Job security, pretty strong. Fan happiness, okay. Not great, but not horrible. And team harmony looks like it's taken a bit of a step in the right direction. It looks like that click may be weakening with the fact that we moved on from Anderson Dolan. So hopefully that's helpful also as we try to really make a push for the playoffs in this month of March. And we've had a good start to the month, just beat Colorado, so I believe that's our 3rd win in the row. Dylan Larkin with a hat trick, despite the fact that Larkin missed a couple of weeks on the injured list. He has got 40 goals on the season already. Don't know that he's going to be able to lead the league since he's 8 down at this point, but a nice season for him. We are still a point out of the playoffs at this point, but we are beginning to separate a little bit. It appears at this point that right now it's a battle between us and the Coyotes for that final spot, and we've got 5 points on the other teams that are chasing us at this point. So been playing better to start the month. As I mentioned, beat Colorado, previously beat the Rangers. Schedule's not going to get any easier, though, as I talked about at the beginning of the month. Lots of games against our Western Conference rivals coming up. And good news here, Bo Horvat ready to resume skating, could be ready in about 2 weeks. So that would give our offense potentially a really nice boost. We've been playing pretty well. Won against Minnesota, lost on the road at St. Louis. Beat Nashville, lost a tough one at home to Vegas, but then won against San Jose. Huge game today against Arizona. Taking a look at the standings, they are a point ahead of us and have a game in hand, a point ahead of us for the final wild card spot in the Western Conference. So this is not literally a must-win game with 12 games left for us after it, but in terms of getting points against a team that we need to get by. Critical opportunity for us here at home against a team that we're chasing. And if we look at the schedule, is it our last game against Arizona? It is. It's the last time we're going to see them this year. So absolutely massive game for us. Then we're going to be on the road for 3 games. Even all the more reason why it's important to get a win in this one before we come back home and finish with 4 out of our last 5 in the month at the United Center. And Mackenzie Blackwood is pretty hot. Going to keep him in goal. Huge game against Arizona here at home. And 3-0 victory. So Blackwood with the shutout. That was exactly what we needed. They still have a game in hand on us, but we are now a point ahead of them for that final playoff spot. Take a look. Larkin with a goal and 2 assists, a couple assists from Radish, and Quinn Hughes with a goal and an assist. So Larkin continues to have a big year. Like to see the assist from the captain as well as Radish. Nice effort. Taking a look at the goalie stats. Blackwood only had to save 12 shots, but it still counts as a shutout. So looks like our defense was excellent, kind of keeping the Coyotes out of the way of our goalie. Only had to face 12 shots, and huge win, especially as we get ready to go on to the road for the next 3 games. Taking a look at that schedule. Dallas, Seattle, and St. Louis, again, all Western Conference teams. St. Louis in first place. Seattle is a team that we are chasing for a wild card, so that would be a huge game. And then Dallas is a team that we are better than. So if we could get 2 wins in those 3 games on the road, that would be an excellent result, particularly if one of those wins is against the Kraken. And Larkin remains on fire. We had a overtime loss to Dallas in the first of those road games, but still got a point. But Larkin just had a hat trick and a 6-5 win at Seattle. So we've gotten 3 points in those first 2 games, including the all-important win against a Seattle team that is still 3 points ahead of us for the first wild card. We're only up 2 points on the Coyotes for the final wild card, and they've got 2 games in hand on us. So although we have been playing better to push the record to 34, 28, and 10, a playoff role or a playoff berth is by no means guaranteed. Got a tough game against the best team in the Western Conference at St. Louis coming up tomorrow. And a big performance with a 5-3 win against the Blues. So we did even better than we had hoped. Went 2-0-1, picked up 5 points on that 3-game road trip. Radish continues his good play with a goal and an assist. Patrick Kane also with a goal and an assist. Really came back. We were down 3-1 heading into the third period, and Kane, Radish, Holloway, and Quinn Hughes all lit the lamp for us, helping us get that big victory against the first place Blues. Still only 2 in front of the Coyotes, who still have 2 games in hand on us. 3 behind the Kraken, and they've got a game in hand on us. So by no means is a playoff spot assured, but looking at the wild card standings for the first time in a long time, we would be in if the season was over today. But again, that's a big assumption that the Coyotes don't pick up some points in those 2 games that they've got in hand on us. But at this point, we've made it through the worst part of our schedule. We're going to finish the month of March with 4 out of 5 games at home, including another matchup against the Blues. huge game against the Kraken if we want to try to put that first wild card spot on into play rather than just the second wild card spot. So 4 out of 5 will be at home to end the month, and then in April we're going to have 3 out of 4 at home. So the difficult road trip earlier in the year, we kind of paid the price for that in the standings. Now's the opportunity to take care of business at home. And we lost 3-2 yesterday to St. Louis, so they got some revenge on us on our home ice. Huge game against Seattle today. Our secret weapon, Jakob Skarek, is in the net for us tonight. Really need to get this W. And a 4-2 loss, so that really hurts to lose 2 in a row to start off this homestand. You can see we are now out of the playoffs, a point behind the Coyotes, and they've got 2 games in hand on us. And Seattle's now 7 up on us. They're not even a wild card anymore. The Ducks, who are 5 up on us and have 2 games in hand, are the wild card. So we're getting close to the point where we got to run the table on this thing. Didn't think that it was going to be this much of a struggle to get this team into the playoffs, but after those 2 losses in a row, we are in a pretty tough spot. So Horvat is ready for practice, which is good. Got back-to-back home games against Winnipeg and Vancouver. Vancouver, a team with 69 points. Winnipeg, a team with 91 points. Certainly feel like we need to win them both. Certainly looks on paper like the game against Vancouver would be easier, but at this point, with just 7 games to go, and the Coyotes at least no longer have games in hand on us, but they're up 4 points on us for that final playoff spot. And the Ducks and the Kraken with 87 points. Getting past the Coyotes is our best hope at this point. But if we lose these 2 games, it's tough to see how we do it. It's almost impossible to see how we do it if we lose these 2 games. And honestly, if we split these 2 games, it's starting to get tough to see how it's going to happen. So hopefully we can get the job done. And we did get a 2-1 win over Winnipeg, which is good. Luke Kunin out of the lineup day-to-day now, though. So fortunately, Horvat will be back soon, but probably not for the next couple of days. Kunin's game unavailable with that back stiffness for 1 to 2 weeks. I think we probably put him on the IL and try to bring up some help, because we're going to have a lot of games in a short period of time at this point. That'll allow us to bring Gavin Hayes back up from Rockford. Don't know that Hayes is going to be playing every day for us, but would rather have someone who can help us. And then once Horvat is back, hopefully in a game or 2, certainly by the beginning of April, then probably send Hayes back down. Just got to keep winning, no matter who's in the lineup. And we've got Skarek back in the net for the back-to-back games here against Vancouver. This was the game that we thought might be a little easier to win of these 2 games at home. Let's find out. Really need a win, and we do get it 4-3. So Paul Cotter banged up. Boy, our front line has just been decimated by injuries all season. Can never just get everybody out there. Looks like at least he's game available for us. We've got Edmonton tomorrow. Taking a look at the standings, we're still on the outside looking in, but we have closed the gap a little bit. We have the same number of points as the Coyotes, even though they have a game in hand on us. So not sure whether or not they're playing today. We'll find out. Okay, Cotter's injured. I know that. We're not playing a game right now. Horvat hopefully will be back for our next game. Won't be back today at Edmonton. Taking a look at the standings, Coyotes still haven't played, so they still got the game in hand on us. The Oilers still not really. No, they're not in the playoff mix with 71 points. So never easy to go on the road, but this is the type of game with them out of the mix for the playoffs that we just need to win at this stage in late March. They've got nothing to play for at this point. We've still got everything in front of us. No excuses for us to not get the job done here. Taking a look, Cotter will be out of the lineup. Can also take Madden out for Lazar. Blackwood should be back between the pipes. We got to just keep winning. Let's see what happens. 7-1 win, so we did take advantage of the team that wasn't playing for anything. You can see that we are up 2 points on the Coyotes, but they once again have 2 games in hand on us, so that's a very tenuous position. Horvat is ready, which is big. Going to have 3 of our last 4 games at home. Pretty good development report. A lot of Blackhawks improving. Some of the older guys moving in the wrong direction, including the captain and Horvat, who's been banged up. Mackenzie Blackwood, goalie of the month. You can see his save percentage and goals against are both better than they were last year, despite his slow start. But the one-loss record is not what it was a season ago, with the fact that our offense has been struggling all season long. And with Cotter kind of being one of the marginal players that we had picked up on waivers, can't get rid of, we are actually going to put him on the IL now as we move Bo Horvat back onto the active roster for these last 4 games. Looks like we're going to be real unlikely to get any help from Kunin or Cotter before the regular season is over. So Kunin, who was a big free agent signing for us, has definitely been disappointing. 9 goals and 25 assists in 76 games and a -1 plus-minus. Not exactly what we expected to be getting from him. We're hoping for definitely more from the pretty versatile forward, but he was plus 21 a year ago for San Jose with a good team, or a team that we think should be good like ours. Was definitely hoping for more than what we've got from him. As the calendar turns to April, as I mentioned, we're 2 games up on the Coyotes for the last wild card spot, but they have 2 games in hand on us. And the Kraken and the Ducks are both 3 games ahead of us, or 3 points ahead of us, with a game in hand on us. So we are still in an extremely tenuous position to make the playoffs. Still really conceivably may need to win out. Interesting that we've got back-to-back games on the road in Edmonton. And then we've got the Kings, Edmonton, and the Sharks to finish up the season. So Sharks are the worst team in the Western Conference. Edmonton is out of it. The Kings are playing for first place in the Pacific, so they've got a lot to play for, but it's not the worst schedule in the world. Would just be great if we had some games against the Coyotes, the Kraken, and the Ducks, the teams that we're chasing, and we don't. So all we can do is take care of our own business. I'd say if we win 4 games, we're in the playoffs. If we win 3, we've got a chance. If we win 2 or less, it's hard for me to see how we're going to end up in the playoffs. So it's pretty clear what our goal is. Really need to win all 4. If we go three wins in a tie, probably have a chance. If we go 3-1, it's definitely going to be borderline whether we can hold off the Coyotes for that final wild card spot. And as April begins, ownership is satisfied. The fans are very pleased. Job security, no issues. Team harmony, good. Looking at team harmony, the click is still there, but seems like things are getting a bit better. Looking at the standings, the Coyotes did lose one of the games that they had in hand on us, which was positive. And it looks like the Kraken won and the Ducks lost. So all in all, that's positive because we're now tied with 4 games left with the Kraken and the Ducks. Still going to be hard to make up a 5-point or a 3-point deficit on them. Coyotes' next game is going to be critical, but honestly, so is ours. If we take care of business at this point and win 4 in a row, as I've said, we're good. But that is obviously not an easy task. Looks like the Coyotes did not play yesterday, so last road game of the regular season for us. Bo Horvat is back, which is a big boon for us. Be nice to have him in the lineup. We need some offense, and Larkin on line 1, Horvat on line 2 definitely helps us out. I think we're going to have the youngsters Tyler Madden and Gavin Hayes going to be the guys who don't play for us down the stretch, along with Willsby. We may get to the point in the next couple of days where guys are a little bit tired as far as their fitness and we have to make some changes, but I think this is the best lineup that we can be putting on to the ice. Let's see if we can win a second in a row on the road in Edmonton. We lose at 6-4. And the Coyotes looks like they won, so they're tied with us with a game in hand. Not the result we wanted. And at this point, I said 3-1 was the kind of minimum that I thought we would need to get into the playoffs. At this point, they're really must wins because we are tied with the Coyotes. They've got 4 games left, so we've got to win 3 in a row to have any chance of getting past. I mean, not mathematically, but particularly with Seattle and Anaheim now 5 and 7 points against us. We can't catch Seattle at this point, and Anaheim would need to lose 3 in a row, and we would need to win 3 in a row to get by them. So our best chance is the Coyotes in our own division, but that loss really hurts. And we've got a tough game against the Kings at home tomorrow. Not in a great spot. The Kings are fighting to avoid being in a wild card at this point. They could still win the Pacific Division, or they could still end up as a wild card at this point. So they certainly have tons to play for. Quick look at the schedule. We got time off between the games, so I think we just keep going with our best players. Looks like just about Formenton's banged up. That's not good, so he's game unavailable. So Lazar is also a little banged up. All right, well, I guess that means we're going to go with guys who are a little healthier, and Hayes and Madden have them playing some important minutes for us, likely on the 4th line. Yep. Blackwood is hot. We're going to need a big game from him, but we're also going to need some goals. Let's see what we can do. 4-2 loss. The only thing that was positive, it looks like the Coyotes also lost, but we are running out of games. With that Coyotes loss, we still have a chance, but we've got to get past them, and we've only got 2 games left. They have got a game in hand on us. They've got an extra win on us. I said 3-1 would do it. I said 2-2. We were probably SOL, so to speak. Got to just keep hoping that the Coyotes lose. Huge game today against Edmonton. These last 2 are both must-win games. They are out of the playoff picture. We are likely out of the playoff picture if we lose this game. So time for the Blackhawks to show why we are the defending champions. No excuses. Got to win this game at home against Edmonton, and it probably still won't be enough. But if we don't win it, there's no chance at all. 6-0 victory. So that was big for us. I would think that we are still in a tough spot as far as the standings. Let's take a look. Dallas and Arizona both in the mix now, a point behind us, and they both have a game in hand. So the win was big for us. But we've got to win the second one, and then we're still hoping that Dallas and Arizona struggle. Impossible for us to catch any of those 4 teams out in the Pacific. They are all in the playoffs. They're just fighting for seedings at this point, and to avoid, in the case of the Kings, the Kraken, and the Ducks, being a wild card. So big win for us to get the 2 points. Larkin has an outside chance to lead the league in goals, honestly. Would love to see Larkin lead the league in goals, because that means he's going to put up at least a hat trick, which probably helps ensure that we're able to get a victory in that final game of the year against the Sharks. It lines up well for us in the fact that we are playing at home against the worst team in hockey in a must-win spot. But we've got to hope that the Stars and the Coyotes also lose over the next day or 2, as we're getting closer. And Dylan Larkin is injured. I had not seen that. That is really bad. Broken bone in his elbow, out indefinitely, so he will not be leading the league in goals. His year is over. 53 goals, 26 assists, 79 points, plus 31. Fantastic season for him. Huge loss for us. Colton out with a gluteus strain. Larkin go right to the IL. Doesn't seem like that's something he can play through. That really stinks. So we're going to bring up somebody. How long is Colton's day-to-day? Fermenton's game available. Lazar's game available. We may just need to... We're going to have to be playing at least one of those guys. Bring up somebody from the AHL, and we don't have a ton down there as far as forwards. Colton Dock. Welcome back up to the big club for this final game of the season. So again, we're hoping that Dallas and the Coyotes lose, but certainly the loss of Larkin for the playoffs, even if we're lucky enough to get there, definitely is a huge blow for this team. And it's just a huge blow to ensure that we can win that last game against San Jose and at least keep ourselves in the mix for the playoffs. So we are actively rooting against Dallas and Arizona right now. Let's see what happens to those teams. and they did both lose yesterday, so that is huge. Fomentin is recovered now, so that helps. Still got a game or a day until tomorrow, but we now actually control our own destiny with the losses by both the Stars and the Coyotes. We all have one game left. If we get the 2 points, we will sneak in as the 8th seed, or more accurately, the number 4 seed in the Western Conference with the last wild card spot. So I didn't think that 2-2 would get us there, but Dallas and Arizona have both, well, Arizona in particular has been struggling down the stretch. Dallas has actually kind of been playing well until that last game to get into the mix. But even though we are banged up, we control our own destiny for the first time maybe since, I'm sure there was some point, 50, 60 games into the season where if we won every game we had left, we controlled our destiny, but that hasn't been the case for the last few weeks. Or that's not really fair. That hasn't been the case for the last few days. But now we have, fortunately, thanks to those other teams struggling, gotten to a point where we do control our own destiny again. Colton is not available, so he is obviously scratch. Willsby a scratch. Doc in the lineup. I'd say we go with the guys who are healthy and completely fit. And Mackenzie Blackwood has the opportunity to get the Blackhawks back into the playoffs. All we need to do... Ooh, who is our healthy player that's injured? Cotter. So that's actually going to mess us up a little bit because he's going to be at 80%. I don't think we can send him to the AHL yet. We picked him up on waivers. So we will send Cotter to the active roster. And to make space for him, we will send Colton to the injury list, which could mean if we do make it to the playoffs, we're missing him for first game of the series. But right now the goal is to get this team into the playoffs, and Lazar is a guy who could actually play for us over the next few days if we need. So doesn't really change the lines that we're going with. Does hurt our flexibility a little bit, possibly for the first game or two of the series if Colton is ready to go but stuck on the IL. But we need to get a win today. That is really the key objective. It's all lined up for us. We're at home against the worst team in hockey, 6-2 victory. Gordie Howe hat trick. Love it. Who was it? But the Blackhawks are back in the playoffs. Was quite a battle to get there. Kane with a goal and an assist. Rasmus Anderson with a couple of assists. And Bo Horvat recently off of the injured list with a couple of goals. Love to see that. Who did the fighting for us? Guess was it Tyler Madden? Yep, he got the goal. He got an assist. And he got a penalty for fighting. So Tyler Madden with the Gordie Howe hat trick. 6-2 victory for the good guys. And with the NHL season complete, Coyotes did get a win that last day, so we needed the W. We absolutely struggled. Thought we 4-0 would clinch it for us. 3-1, we had a chance. 2-2, and we didn't see a scenario where we would make it. But we got really lucky that the Coyotes struggled down the stretch, because despite the 2-2 record over our last 4 games of the year, we do sneak this Chicago Blackhawks team into the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. So it was a battle for us to get here, but we've got a chance at least, and the opportunity to try to defend our unexpected title from last season. It is going to be incredibly hard. We are out our best offensive player. Dylan Larkin will not be back. Luke Kunin, free agent signing from this past offseason, should be back for the playoffs. Colton may miss a game or 2, given that he's on the injured list for at least another 3 days, and he's also day-to-day. Hronek, if we make a long run, will be back, but I feel like hopefully some of those trades we made near the end helped us. Haven't really checked in. Let's see what Christian Dvorak did for us. 10 points in 20 games, -2, playing 15 minutes a game. So he was not a huge difference maker, but every goal counts at this point. And then Lazar is the other guy that we picked up. Came off, was not a everyday player for us. You can see we picked him up actually a day or 2 before we picked up Dvorak. You can't see that, but I'm telling you that we picked him up a day or 2 before we picked up Dvorak, and he only played in 12 games compared to the 20 that Dvorak played, but was 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points, +4 while he was on the ice. So Lazar definitely contributed also. So glad that we snuck into the playoffs. It would have been a real bummer to have in our 3rd year of this playthrough, coming off of a title, to not even gotten this team in. So that is good news. The fans happy with those last 2 wins. We'll be happy that we're in the playoffs. We were supposed to finish in the top quarter of the league. Did not accomplish that goal. We're barely in the top half of the league, but I guess if we win our first round series, that'll put us into the top quarter of the league in terms of our ultimate performance on the ice, including the playoffs. We will find out how the playoffs go in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.